I'm Agnes Height, and I'm going to be doing my senior board. As I stand here today, I've had some time to grow as a person, to have some fun or not so fun times, and to reflect on my time on high school. I will be sharing some of the most impactful experiences, most enjoyed activities, while also sharing a topic that's interested me through high school. My interest in science drove me to find a pathway and of a career that's meant for me. Then it drove me to think about what makes us act the way that we do as humans. So while being so interested in science, I've also found that throughout the last couple years I was really into The Bachelor and the idea of behind love and how it works on that show. And so I found that even in my own relationships, I study myself and why I do the things that I do or feel the emotions that I feel. And so throughout this process of study, it brought up the question is if there's different types of love depending on who you're loving. So is the love you feel for your mom different than the love for your significant other? The reasons behind my research has driven me to research the science behind love. And I chose to look at the chemicals that are involved as well as the processes that happen in your life. So the basic bodily functions are similar in men, women, and children all across the world. This proposes the idea that our minds are all programmed the same way. So although we express love and the emotions in different ways, our brains feel them the same. So because we're all wired the same, our attractions are all caused by dopamine, our lust is all by oxytocin, and our commitment is all based on vasopressin. And because of this wiring being similar, the releases and the processes are also the same. So inside of our brains, we can't control what's happening, but we can kind of trick our heart into thinking what we want. But I want to make sure that you know what I'm talking about. So have you felt that attraction to someone, like you're just kind of addicted and you want to be around them? That's all from these chemical neurotransmitters that are happening in your brain. So these feelings are all part of a roller coaster of chemical reactions and the neurotransmitters that are being released in your brain. Now, the idea that you love someone comes from the time release of dopamine, not exactly how you portray them as a person physically. So yes, there is something about that person that attracts you. However, your brain is going to feel that way no matter what. So the addiction piece that I talked about is something that's being represented in these pictures. So in the image closest to me is the dopamine release tracing of a cocaine addict. And then on the far side is what our brains look like when we're falling in love. So as you can see, it takes the same process through the frontal lobe in the same ways and releases out into the little stems also in the same places. So this is interesting because studies have shown that our dopamine patterns follow the same as a cocaine addict's brain when we're falling in love. So as we go through that phase of attraction and addiction, there's something that deeper that connects us to one person, and that's the process of pair bonding. I have a picture of prairie voles because studies have shown that during pair bonding, they're the mammals that are most similar to us going through this process. And so pair bonding is the process in our human nature that leads to us being monogamous and committed to one person. So during the pair bonding, we release more neurotransmitters after that dopamine. And those ones are like serotonin and oxytocin, which further cement the idea that someone's meant for us. So the oxytocin is also referred to as the cuddle hormone and is something that's released from mothers when they're nursing their newborns. So that connection is also a little bit deeper with a mom than it is with a significant other. So researchers refer to serotonin as the thrust hormone, which is also something that happens in that addiction phase, but is increased through the process of pair bonding. This is important in creating the pair bond because they allow us to strengthen that connection. But something else that strengthens the connection is the actuality of knowing the person. So along with those neurotransmitters, there have been some other studies that happen, and this one originated in the UK in 2000. And this is called the 36 question study. So it's exactly what it sounds like, and the only requirement is that the two people had to be willing to participate and willing to answer all of the questions. So two people sit down, they ask 36 questions, and they're broken down into 3 different sets based on the types of different questions they are. So set 1 had things like take 4 minutes and tell your partner your life story, and then set 2 went a little bit deeper and was asking to share different aspects of the person they're sitting with that they like. And so they kind of went back and forth for a total of 5 items. Step one is really surface level conversation and knowing if that even affects that pair bonding later on. And so as we move into step three, it asks couples to share or to stare at each other's eyes for a period of time to see if that even has anything to do with the connection of love. And so overall, at the end of these 36 questions, it's to offer an optional kiss for the couples to share with one another. And the reason behind this study was to see if that mutual closeness that was represented in set 1 and 2 was enough to establish that pair bond connection we have as humans. And research has proven that it worked on most strangers, which was really interesting. And they walked out of the room knowing one another and having a date planned, and they're not nervous to meet that stranger anymore. So as I move on, that topic was important to me because I've always had that interest and passion for science and understanding what goes on in our bodies. So the interest sprouted from the love of medicine that I've had for literally my whole life. And so my senior activity led me to look into a job shadow opportunity in the medical field. I decided to shadow Chelsea Williams, and she's a registered nurse at Peace Health Riverbend, but she's also the assistant manager in the intensive care unit. So going into this job shadow, I expected to be making rounds, checking on the nurses, sending emails, even a couple meetings. And it was kind of what I expected, but also really not what I expected. So as a manager, she has to be aware of all the safety policies, the budget meetings, and all of those things that you don't think about as a patient. And so what we really did was we did go to a daily meeting with the house supervisor, but then we talked a lot with the financial department, sending emails and communicating with some of our travel nurses. And this raised the question if it was still reasonable. So, the pros to this job and why it would still be reasonable is it has the qualities of management and teamwork and working in a hospital that I really wanted. But the cons to this was there was a lot of sitting in her office and not enough social connections, face-to-face conversations with me. And I think I'm too type A for that. I think that I need to be a little bit more active and up and around and face-to-face with people on a daily basis. So I'm glad that I exposed to myself what it really was before I got to the workforce or 3 years into college. So looking forward into my near future, college is what I'm thinking about, and I've decided that my first year I'll be at Oregon State in Corvallis. And with that decision, it came with a couple other choices. Oregon State offers 2 different campuses, and so in Bend they have small class sizes, which I was really excited for, but they lacked that extracurricular involvement that I would like. So I will be majoring in biohealth sciences, and I've decided to go to the Corvallis campus because that first year experience with that extracurricular activities were really important to me in high school, so I decided to carry that on into my college life. And the amount of activities that I will be involved in will totally impact my career pathway. So looking on the road of 4 to even 6 years down the road, I will be taking courses like anatomy, calculus, chemistry, as well as gaining that on-the-job experience and making connections with people who are also interested in that pathway. My goal is to be a physician's assistant, and hopefully 6 years down the road, after I complete my undergrad and physician's assistant school for 2 years post-grad, then I will specialize in pediatrics. And I've made this decision because hopefully at my entry-level job, I'll be able to specialize in pediatrics as I work into that field. And I want to make that decision because I have always been into kids, and it's something that I think could lighten that job a little bit, having your patients be fun and youthful and engaging as patients. And hopefully 6 years down the road, I have a good idea of what success feels like and looks like. I'll be out of college, hopefully I'll be looking to settle down, and I should be able to kind of be stable as one individual. So in order to look forward, it's important to reflect on those past 4 years and how they've influenced me to be who I am. So through my 4 years of high school, I was involved with the hosting program, which helped me grow as a leader in many different aspects. I also became a part of a new family, which gave me some more stability outside of high school. And the other important outlet that I had through high school was CrossFit, because it always served as a space for myself to be challenged, and to continually push myself to reach goals, which I think was an important aspect of becoming where I am. Looking back in high school and in school activities, I was heavily involved with the leadership class, which meant that I was also super involved with Lion King. I was honored to serve as a coordinator for 2 years and be a part of a life-changing experience for a lot of our community members. And I also served on student council as a junior class rep, and that helped me with my involvement because we do a lot of community outreach and ways to give back to the community and not just in our school. So that was an important aspect as well. And looking on to community service, that leads me to my advice to freshmen. While I wasn't involved with community service as a freshman, I wish I was. As I was filling out applications this past winter for college and scholarships, they all had a reoccurring question about community service. Yes, I had 100 million different hours for junior and senior year, but I wish I would have had that spread out the course of 4 years and to be able to pick up more experience along the way. So I highly encourage first years to get involved with community service, talk to the Interact Club, the Key Club. Student council is always a great place to start. And I know that you'll feel more confident in where you can go in life if you're able to have those connections already pre-existing before you leave high school. Thank you. Hey seniors, I just wanted to give you a couple pointers on doing this senior board because it is really a big deal, and I'm thankful that I went through this process. So first, I want to let you know that it takes a lot more practice than you think it does. I practiced 2 or 3 times for the weeks leading up to my board, as well as 6 times the day of before, just to make sure I had all those kinks worked out. I worked on transitions, saying thank you, making sure that I was able to relax. So whatever you need to do to feel confident in this, that's what you need to do. I also want to remind you that it's important when you walk into the room to say, introduce yourself, and also shake hands. It is a pretty formal process for you and the board to be doing, so just make sure you take that extra step and shake hands. And then lastly, always say thank you. It takes a lot of time out of the faculty members' days to sit and listen to everyone, so they should feel appreciated just as much as you've been appreciated as a student. And so that's also an important tip, and it's just polite. You should just be polite. So, but good luck everyone, and I hope you put into as much work as I did, and go Lions!